This presentation will be on hearing conservation by Chanel Bogany, Danielle Flynn, and Stacy Nowicki.
In today's presentation, we're going to discuss what hearing conservation is and why it's important, the degrees of hearing loss and relatable sounds, occupational safety and health administration, as well as suggested methods in a work setting to conserve hearing for your employees. In this slide, we're going to discuss a couple of statistics that hearing conservation can actually prevent. The National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health states that in 2007, there were 23,000 reports of hearing loss that resulted in hearing impairments by employees. Those reports were 14% of the year's documented workplace illnesses. This is why hearing conservation in the workplace is so important. When the proper safety precautions are followed correctly, these numbers can be reduced. Each year, about 22 million workers in the United States are exposed to hazardous noise levels at work. Over 30 million of these workers are exposed to chemicals, some of which are ototoxic, which means harmful to the ear, and hazardous to hearing. What is hearing conservation? Hearing conservation is for all employees exposed to levels of sound of 90 A-weighted decibels or higher for a time-weighted average equal to or above 8 hours of a workday. When this occurs, there is a program set forth by an employer or a precaution an individual could take for themselves. When the noise level is higher than 90 A-weighted decibels, you should decrease the 8-hour time limit by half for every 5 decibel increase.
The next topic we're going to discuss is why hearing conservation is important. Conserving your hearing from the beginning is important to prevent noise-induced hearing loss over time. Noise-induced hearing loss could be temporary or permanent depending on the noise level and the longevity to exposure. Noise-induced hearing loss not only can occur in the workplace, but also with continuous exposure to noises throughout our daily lives, such as hair dryers or lawnmowers. Being educated is also so important because it relates to prevention. People need to be aware of hazardous noise exposure and need tools in their toolbox that will protect their hearing. Without conservation, hearing loss would have many adverse effects on a person's quality of life. This could mean feelings of isolation, depression, difficulty building and keeping relationships, and much more. This next slide shows a chart that provides examples of everyday sounds and the decibel level they measure at. You can see how long your ears should be exposed to these sounds on a daily basis without damage. For example, normal conversation, a vacuum cleaner, and dishwasher are presented between 0 to 80 dB. And you should only be exposed to these noise levels up to 12 hours on a daily basis. You can also see how the time of exposure decreases when the decibel level increases, such as city traffic and football games are usually presented around 80 to 100 dB, and the exposure time for this noise level is up to 8 hours. By not taking the necessary precautions to conserve your hearing, it can result in noise-induced hearing loss over time, which could be temporary or permanent depending on the noise level and amount of time spent unprotected on a daily basis. Briefly, we wanted to provide a basic understanding of the different levels of hearing loss. The degrees of hearing loss presented are determined by what your threshold is for sound. Your threshold is your sensitivity to sound, and by measuring your sensitivity, we can see what level you become aware of a sound presented. Depending on the level this occurs, determines if there is a hearing loss present and to what degree it is. So if you look up at the screen, a negative 10 to 20 dB hearing level is a normal measurement of a hearing threshold. 21 to 40 dB hearing level is a mild hearing loss. A 41 to 55 dB hearing level is a moderate hearing loss. A 56 to 70 dB hearing level is a moderately severe hearing loss. 71 to 90 dB hearing level is a severe hearing loss, and anything above 91 is a profound hearing loss. Hearing conservation is just as important in the workplace as it is in daily life. In the Occupational Safety and Health Act of 1970, Congress declared that its purpose was to assure, so far as possible, safe and healthful working conditions for every working man and woman and to preserve our human resources. OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, provides training, sets standards, and provides guidelines for workplace safety, including noise exposure. To monitor if hearing protection is needed, OSHA requires employers to regulate and monitor noise exposure while providing baseline audiometric exams within 6 months of the first exposure at or above 90 dBA over an 8-hour time period. Noise exposure records must be kept for 2 years, and the audiometric testing results for the duration of the employee's employment. The baseline audiogram will be used to measure against future audiograms to compare hearing level changes. A standard hearing threshold shift is a shift of 10 dB. This is when OSHA requires employers to provide hearing protection at no cost to the employee. This testing is also at no cost to the employee. Each time the work environment changes, it is imperative that employers repeat noise exposure monitoring and testing of hearing protection to see if they are still working sufficiently.
The National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health has created a hierarchy of controls for hearing conservation. This diagram represents the different ways to conserve hearing in any environment. Starting at the top, the most effective method is to eliminate the noise completely. Essentially, remove the source of the noise. However, this may not be possible, especially if the work environment takes place where machinery is used. Even mowing the lawn results in hazardous noise exposure. You can remove the lawnmower, but you'll have to deal with overgrown grass. If you are unable to eliminate the noise completely, such as a lawnmower, the next most effective step, as can be seen in the green color, is to buy quiet equipment and tools. Again, this is not always feasible. Quiet tools may not be available, or budgets may not be large enough to purchase these tools. If quiet tools are not available, the next step, as can be seen in the yellow color, is to control the hazardous noise by removing people from the noise. If people must be near the noise source, then the next step, as can be seen in the orange color, is to modify the amount of time that people are exposed to the noise. In the workplace, this may be an administrative scheduling adjustment by rotating the employees every so often away from the source of the noise. If an individual attends a day-long music festival, they should limit the time they are exposed to the loud music. Finally, the last precaution is to wear personal protective equipment and make sure it is correctly placed. This should be done during any type of hazardous noise exposure. According to the Occupational Noise Exposure Standard 1910.95, employers are required to provide hearing protectors to all general industry employees exposed to an 8-hour time-weighted average of 85 dBs at no cost to the employees. Employees should be given a selection of at least one type of earplug and one type of earmuff. Earplugs are devices that are inserted into the ear canal to protect one's hearing. They can be made of foam, wax, silicone, plastic, or other flexible materials. One advantage to earplugs is that they are relatively inexpensive and some of them can be reused. However, some earplugs do not fit in the smaller ear canals of women. Canal caps are similar to earplugs, but they are attached to a flexible band made of plastic or metal. Canal caps are convenient because when you are not around loud noise, you can leave them hanging around your neck. A major disadvantage is that they do not extend all the way into the ear canal, but act only as a cap to cover it. This means that some noise may still reach the inner ear. Earmuffs provide a seal around the entire ear. However, people with glasses and thick beards or sideburns may not obtain the proper seal. In addition, earmuffs may be hot and heavy for some environments. Remember to ensure the proper seal is always formed. A person trained to size ear protection can help with deciding which is the best protection for you, but ultimately it is up to you to wear ear protection during prolonged exposure to noises above 90 dB. Additionally, ear protection should be comfortable to wear and provide sufficient noise protection. Things to remember about hearing conservation include there should always be a program dedicated to hearing conservation. If you are unaware of a hearing conservation program at your place of employment, ask your supervisor. In addition, if noise level is a problem for you, make sure you're educated on the plan of action within your field that will help conserve your hearing. Participate in all annual audiograms and trainings your workplace provides. This is important to monitor any hearing level changes. If a hearing loss is found, the sooner you are treated, the better. Always take the necessary precautions to conserve your hearing in the workplace and your everyday life. Wear ear protection when needed. In conclusion, hearing conservation is a plan put in place to ensure the safety of your hearing. It's important to be educated about what hearing conservation is and how everyday noises can affect your hearing in the long run. Hazardous noise exposure can result in noise-induced hearing loss over time, whether that be temporary or permanent. Hearing loss can affect quality of life negatively, so it is important precautions are taken to maintain a better quality of life. Noises such as mowing your lawn, listening to music, blow-drying your hair, and more are all examples of noises that can affect your hearing over time. Be aware of the hazardous noises in your everyday life and workplace. Be aware of the Occupational Safety and Health Administration guidelines for hearing conservation. Know the different methods and hierarchy of controls available to conserve your hearing. And last but not least, please take the precautions we have suggested in the PowerPoint. They will protect your hearing.